what really makes the brand stand out is this deep idea and concept and the story of the founder. And that's how you really build trust and relate to the audience.
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Now let's get started with the episode. Hello listeners, viewers. Super excited to have Victoria Vaughan today, founder of B612. She runs an award-winning NYC-based PR agency that's pioneering AI-enhanced communication strategies for tech companies. Victoria, how are you? Welcome.
Great. Thank you for having me here today. Hi, Eitan.
Yes,
Excited to share some insights with your community.
Yeah, sure. I heard your story and I said, okay, I have to talk to Victoria because you've made like a huge transformation and a great success during the last few years based in New York. So Victoria, before we deep dive into everything that you do, I'd like you to choose 3 words that are best describing your belief and who you are and why.
Mm-hmm. First word that comes to my mind is beauty and aesthetics. I believe that it is something that brings a lot of color into my life, and especially now overall, we live in like such a visual driven world. And personally for myself, a lot of little aesthetics details is something that helps me feel better every day. And it's a very easy way to uplift my mood and how I feel about myself. I love art very much and very regularly go to all the museums. And I believe that art is a combination of like visual aspect and conceptual thinking. And that's like what in the current world, in my opinion, and especially in marketing, is one of the most like important skills to be able to combine, to bring ideas behind things, and also to have a visual and text representation to that. So beauty is the first. The second one is connection. Now in the online world and in the AI world, I feel like offline and like human connection is actually gaining more and more importance, and people are feeling more and more lonely. So for me, it's really important to build close connections with people in my life, both friends and clients. B612 is, for example, a boutique agency, so we are not onboarding like many clients at a time, but with every client, it's a very individual based approach. And with every client, I always try to work with those founders and companies with whom I'm aligned in terms of values. And then we build long-term friendships with those founders. And the last one I already briefly mentioned, I love philosophy overall and concept thinking. So concepts and ideas, and like the third thing I really think is about me.
Nice. So I think it helps me a lot to at least try to understand your personal beliefs and the journey that you've been through and your beliefs in terms of, life and business. Obviously, there's a lot of connection to what you do, right? In every day with the B612. And founders out there, they have so many channels to think of, right? I mean, both online, offline, and why media, why PR? Tell us exactly what you do and what's the benefit of that specific channel.
Yeah, so we work with tech brands mainly, including some of the wearable brands and devices, and we help them build meaningful stories around their brands and personal brands of the founders, and to really bring these like deep ideas and concepts into their things they're building and narrating and helping relate with the right audience. And I believe that media, including new media, because now PR also includes not only classic news media outlets, but also podcasts, as you, Eitan, have, as well as influencer relationships, and a lot of journalists are now also becoming media on their own, starting their own Substacks. So all these mediums help build a very complex approach to the brand. And again, we have already mentioned that today the world is so flooded with AI noise and same visual style of AI production, for example, that what really makes the brand stand out is this deep idea and concept and the story of the founder. And that's how you really build trust and relate to the audience, and provide value to your customers, and this way build a community around your brand, which I believe nowadays is very important for any company to have a community of these trusted like ambassadors and people who believe in your product and even become like a marketing power of your brand.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, having this real human communication, whether it's online or offline, is a differentiator these days, right? So
Yes.
it seems that you're also going deep on the foundation of understanding the why story of the founder and try to find out the differentiating points and probably refining the messaging, maybe
Mm-hmm.
analyzing invitation. Or what's the process? I mean, that foundational layer of you probably you also need to figure out if there is something to work with here. And
Mm-hmm.
once it's a yes, how do you develop the process of identifying the uniqueness of that specific story? With every customers that you onboard.
Yes, every campaign always starts with a lot of research, news analysis, competitor analysis, and to be honest with you, I'm quite shocked when like startups and companies come to us. Very rarely they have a high quality market and product research.
Yeah.
They have just put together some like ideas that sit in their mind, but it's not based on any real like customer research, customer feedback, and analysis. And not many brands even have a good understanding what kind of strategy and ideas are behind the competitor brands and how to stand out on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start working with any client, we start from analyzing what is the competitor branding messages and communication strategy, and in terms of narratives, what is happening on the market, both in terms of social media and media. And then when you make this like complex analysis of various mediums, and now also a lot of like community communications, for example, happening on Reddit, this is also something you should definitely consider when you make a market analysis. And through all the AI tools, this kind of
Mm-hmm.
product and market research is so much faster and easier to make using tools like Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT can all do a really good job helping you find out what are the current gaps on the market, what kind of messaging and like brand ideas are behind competitors, and what is the gap that is like not covered on the market, but for example, you see a specific request community have. Another tool I want to highlight is called Gummy Search. It helps analyze Reddit trends and like combine like all the problems and things people discuss. And this kind of problem driven solving communication is also a great strategy to relate to the audience, as opposed to like trying to like get your ideas out. It's good to have strong beliefs, but you also need to do a reality check and to be able to actually relate to people's real problems and
Mm-hmm.
solutions they're looking for.
Yeah, you mentioned a few times the analyzing, trying to figure out the gaps, right? You mean just,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what are the messages of my direct competition and where I can fit in, just somewhere in the middle? Can you share more details about that?
Yeah, so generally, I'll give you an example. When we talk like about tech products, now one of the companies we work with, they're solving a problem of digital identity. and a lot of companies like are trying to solve that. But at the moment, for example, one of the like most hyped out products is called WorldCoin, but they're storing like all your biometric data, and they have been having a lot of backlash around that.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, in this case, the gap, like in terms of product development, would be, is there a way to create a digital identity and to distinguish the real human from the AI bot without storing the biometrics? This is an example of how you find like the gap that the
Yes.
audience needs.
Yeah. Super, super interesting. Okay, so once that is figured out, how do you evaluate or analyze in terms of the channels you want to choose? I mean, there are so many platforms these days. Are you just focusing on one? Are you believe in just multi-channel? What's your approach for distribution?
I think it depends on the company's goals and why they came to us for the PR. Some of the founders want to get like investor ready for the next round. Some of them want to do more of a product growth or partnership growth. And depending on those goals, we choose the messages and the channels we want to use. To illustrate, if it's more like investor-led PR, we would target more of the newsletters and media outlets that investors are reading. If it's
Mm-hmm.
like more of a consumer product growth, then we identify, okay, where is this audience sits? Which kind of media outlets around are writing about those topics? Which editors and journalists are covering that? Or, for example, which events are the leading one in the industry, and where do we want to put client to be a speaker at? For example, if it's a more of a B2B company, a speaking engagement is a great opportunity to be like at the speaker dinners and to then to be able to build connection with all the customers and partners you need to, and to establish yourself as a thought leader in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And even like if we talk more about consumer brands and e-commerce brands, here, thought leadership, I think, is still an important thing, and the data-driven PR is very important. I feel like a lot of brands are trying to be like very straightforward and very promotional, and not enough people are able to build like more story-driven marketing and data-driven marketing. For example, if you want to get featured in top outlets, you need to identify exactly these media platforms where your audience sits and what kind of content they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, when you make a research, you want to find out, okay, which media are writing about product like my own, and what exactly are they writing, and which journalists are writing those. And then you start just from building connections with those journalists. You connect with them on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and you start engaging with them again about human connection
Mm-hmm.
before even trying to get something from that. Try just to be sincere and natural, like start commenting their post, and this already over time, they will like remember your name. And then when you actually need to pitch some product announcement or product launch, it will make you stand out. And then you analyze what kind of titles and trends are there, and think in terms of stories, what would be interesting to talk about. For example, you go on TikTok and you identify that now there is a trend, I don't know, about women loving quite luxury lifestyle. So you think what kind of story can be interesting within this trend?
Mm-hmm.
5 products that make you quite a luxury lifestyle woman. Then you go and find reporters and Substack journalists who usually write this kind of guides. And you basically, your goal is to help journalists to create the content that they would naturally post. And the problem that the media market is now having is that a lot of media platforms, unfortunately, are laying out journalists, and there is more and more pressure on them to put like big number of content and also to be able to come up with the titles that would drive attention. So your goal is to be a friend and a helper of the journalist and to put together content that they would want to post. And to be able to do that, you need to make all this research in advance to know what kind of stories they usually write about, to know what kind of trends are now interesting to the audience, and then to be able to combine it all into a piece that would be in the intersection of the interest of the audience and your product.
Yes, yes. And obviously on the back end side, you are maintaining obviously healthy relationship with all these media outlets and with journalists and with editors. What's important for founders out there to understand about that process? What's working today, if anything has changed, right, in the last few years on that front?
So mentioning like the AI, I think we all see the increase of AI generated cold pitches. And in my opinion, you can always see when it's like a real communication or something quickly put together with the AI. And I mentioned before that AI is a great tool for a lot of research and these kind of tasks. For example, for the agency, we have all the AI agent flow built out that constantly monitor media market trends and topics that we need to have a pulse on. And proactively, the AI agents are sending us alerts what kind of trends and stories are happening on the market. And then AI agents, they also identify what kind of journalist would be interested to cover this story. And based on that, for example, we are able to proactively pitch a journalist who have not even written about the story yet, but we can already try to put together a story and fit a commentary from our client, for example, and basically act as a news agency by ourselves. So this kind of scenario, I believe AI helps a lot to be more proactive and act even before like a big story came out on the more outlets. But in terms of, for example, just using, there are a lot of tools which now send out mass campaigns which do not have enough like personalization. They have really this AI sloppy language, like these words all the LLMs use, and people are now became very good in identifying that. And I think if journalist sees that you have not even put any effort into like doing your job and just trying to use him to get advertising for your product, it's not gonna work. So again, it's about being valuable to other people. I believe that being a giver is always paying you back long term. And being able to build this kind of long-term relationships with the journalist is what will bring you at the right audience at the right moment. And then with the media channels, why we love doing press, I think that constant pitching gets you very consistent media pieces. And the media piece is something that boosts the brand authority for you. It's a verification from a third party, like trustful source. And those links will always be sitting like in Google, and not only in Google now, high domain authorities also get into all the LLMs. So even when a person searches about your brand through like ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or anything, very likely your product will get there because you had this story with a reputable outlet. And as opposed to influencer campaigns, media article will be always with you. And that's an asset that definitely should be integrated in your marketing strategy, and you should use it again and again and again across all the communication channels you use. You put it on the website, featured in, you mention it in your social media content, and you basically are able to transform one media piece into many pieces of communications throughout all your marketing channels.
Yeah, interesting. So obviously AI has been used in various places, right, in your day to day. And I love it that you differentiate between the research part with all the agents and the outreach, right? And trying to gather not just to even more personalization and hooks points that are relevant right now for that specific
Yes.
topic, and just reach out in a very personalized way. just to make sure that it aligns with whatever is interesting right now on the media outlet side and specific journalist. And I think this is the right way to do, right? Definitely, most of the emails that are going out today from these automation tools are blocked somewhere in the middle, right? And sometimes you see like 50% open rate, but we know it's not correct, right? Because probably bots open them somewhere in the middle. There's no human who actually, saw these emails, and I mean all the data behind it is, I think, is a mess.
100%, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And Victoria, I want to talk to you about the importance of founder-led content, right? Or founder-led PR, right? Trying to, obviously, there is the company and the company name and the company story and positioning, vision, mission, all that. But the founder is getting, I mean, the importance of the founder story is so important these days, right? To support that company story. Well, what are your thoughts on this, and how do you see founders adapting to this trend?
Yes, all the numbers and research supports that the companies that have a strong personal brand of the founder are easier to secure investments. They have more trust from the consumers, and it's basically boosting all the business metrics for the company. And why is that? Of course, as we have discussed how important the human connection is, founder-led PR is what lets your audience connect with you as a personality, not just with a generic brand, right? And now there is actually even a trend not only for the founder-led PR, but also for the employee-led PR. On social media, we see a lot of content about a day of the employees and how the founder spends time with their employees. So it's all about transparency, I would say, and sharing more about the process and not just successful success in the end of your journey. I see that the stories that actually relate around the brands and founders who are comfortable even to get vulnerable and share some of the mistakes they're making, what is working, what is not working. Because I feel like now in the Instagram and Twitter era, when everyone is posting only success stories, everyone is so tired of that. And
Yeah.
you actually relate to a person when this person is able to share real stories from life. And like, let's be honest, when we on the way to success, it consists of like 90% of mistakes you're making and you're learning from those mistakes. So being able to be open and honest about your journey is what brings a lot of sympathy from the audience and trust.
Yeah, yeah, that's makes a lot of sense, and I know that being a founder has a lot of tasks, right? Product development, product market fit, right? Growth, but also content development, content production, and just spending time. This
Yeah.
definitely.
And in terms of media, a lot of media also love sharing founders' journey. So, for example, outlets like Fast Company, Business Insider, if we talk about like more fashion outlets, Vogue, they all have formats of like your journey and this ability to put together an engagement story. And there are actual frameworks how you can do it. And they always all include like what kind of challenges you have faced, which difficult choices you had to make. So putting all these personal details, which makes your journey unique, is what makes your story stand out as well.
Yes, yes, yes. So, Victoria, I wanted to ask you about specific, like a campaign, right? So, assuming we have a product launch or a specific campaign we want to launch, in a certain time, let's say in the next few months. What would be the ideal timeline, or what are the major steps that founders need to understand in terms of that process towards a launch?
Well, for the launch, of course, you need to start preparing long time in advance. I believe that both in tech and e-commerce and consumer PR, you need to work on creating your community even before the product launch. And that's why your founder journey is important, and the story why exactly you wanted to create this
Mm-hmm.
brand, how the idea came to your mind, and all those stories, how you're building this product even before the launch is worth sharing. And that's what creates this bond between your audience even before you launch the product. So having this community who believes in your brand is a really big power that would boost your launch strategy as well. In terms of media coverage, we usually start from thought leadership pieces and founder journey stories. Thought leadership piece is when you share your strong opinion about the market. You cannot directly shill anything about your project or product, but it's more what kind of problems you see in the market, how you see they should be solved. So there are a lot of outlets that have contributor writers which put together this kind of thought leadership content. It's basically an article that you write as an author,
Mm-hmm.
and on the media outlet, it's published under your name. So again, it's a great founder-led PR. It elevates trust of your brand, trust of your personal brand, and establish you as a thought leader in the
Yeah.
space.
And in terms of
This
timeline, when do you plan that piece
third
usually?
leadership pieces, we usually start putting out 2-3 months in advance the
Okay.
product launch. For
Mm-hmm.
the product launch itself, we start the campaign around a month in advance. So we start working on the press release, what kind of messages and ideas we want to put together around the launch. Then we prepare the media list, all the journalists. We start warming up connections with all those journalists. And then the actual pitches for the product announcements, we usually send 2 weeks in advance, mentioning that this announcement is under embargo, meaning that this will story come out in 2 weeks from now. And this way, you agree with a list of journalists who will be ready to cover your announcement on the launch date. And of course, it's always nice also mention them that you will highlight these media features on your own channels as
Mm-hmm.
well. And then at the date of the announcements, you put the press release oftentimes on the wire service. There is a special press release wire service. And at the same time, the journalists come out with the news announcements on their websites.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, that's a great foundation. And for companies and founders out there, evaluating so many marketing channels and just spending budget wisely, I think it's important that you highlight, the real benefits of the media work that you do versus, any other type of activities, whether it's, advertising on Meta or launching on TikTok or even creating a personal brand on LinkedIn. Obviously, everything cannot be done, right? Definitely in
Mm-hmm.
the early stage. So just try. I think it's important for you to highlight, the benefits of the work that you do, just because I think it's really, really meaningful.
Mm-hmm. In terms of channels, as I mentioned earlier, I believe you should choose based on the goals you have and where your audience is.
Hmm.
And based on that, you choose the top media you want to be, the top channels you want to be. Probably for a consumer brand or e-commerce brand, LinkedIn would not be as important as for a tech founder or someone who has a company working in a B2B space. So based on your story and on your audience, you're already able to eliminate some of the medium channels you don't need to use.
Hmm.
And always think what your goals are, what you want to achieve, and what would bring the biggest outcome. So in terms of the media, for example, you choose what kind of media write about a product like yours, and what are the biggest media outlets in the space. And then your primary goal is to be featured in those outlets.
Yes, and if someone out there just trying to evaluate working with you, right, with B612 versus, I don't know, launching on specifically on one of the marketing channels, right? So obviously budgets can't be allocated everywhere. What are
Mhm.
the highlights or the benefits that you want to address, to do to these founders just working with you as a channel for growth versus other channels?
I think why like PR campaign is great, as I mentioned before, within a certain number of time, within 6 months, I think you can build a very decent like media presence that will always be working for you.
Mhm.
So at the launch, investing like in this kind of like PR strategy, having all those links, which then you will be able to always use for your brands. And after that, you can reallocate these budgets towards more of like social media, for example. But having media coverage is what can always elevate your trust, help boost your conversion rates, and also even like drive your sales. So
Mhm.
after the building this initial trust with all the different formats, you can then, after working with a PR agency, focus on social media and also have a internal person who will be focused more on a product guides, for example, because that for a consumer brand, for the e-commerce brand, I think, which would actually drive sales. And when you have a more complex story already built out, the media presence already built out, it is getting easier and easier for you to get regularly mentioned in the media outlets. And then I think the best strategy would be to have an internal person who is focusing in featuring your product in this like product list, like for
Mhm.
example, best 5 products to buy for this.
Yeah,
And journalists always put together these kind of guides, of course, during holiday season. But holiday season obviously is a very competitive time when you try to like squeeze your product into
yeah,
mention. But you can actually have this kind of strategy on the ongoing basis. And as I mentioned before, you should be able to fit your narrative into like some trending stories, like quiet luxury, or now all Gen Z want this. So you find journalists who usually cover these kind of lists, and you put together content fitting your product into like product list that needs to be bought, and this kind of media content that would like constantly bring you sales.
exactly. I mean, obviously it takes some time, but eventually you get a massive distribution that you cannot do on your own to highly, highly targeted audiences that you have the
Yes.
ability to engage directly with, which is something you cannot do in any other social media channel,
And
obviously.
what's great with the media, and this is done organically, it's not a paid placement you have to
Yes.
allocate any budget for. So while you have consistent internal process for this, you have like a cost obviously for your employee time, but you don't have to have crazy advertising budgets, and it hits like a lot of different checkbox. It like elevates your brand, it increases the trust, and it always also drives your sales. Like what else you can dream of in
Yes.
terms of
Yes.
marketing, right?
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Victoria, well done. I mean, amazing, great stuff. How can people find you and B612?
Yeah, b612pr.com. Feel free to book a call with me. I will be always happy to brainstorm on and help you with the strategy. And
Mhm.
also find me on LinkedIn. Let's be friends.
Nice. Sure, sure. Any unique story you have for the name of the agency? I think it's interesting.
Yes, I actually do. Have you heard of the book called The Little Prince?
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
so there is a planet where the little prince has the fox and the flower, the rose.
Mhm.
So it's a place of love and connection, which is within my values. It's the name of the planet
Got it.
where he has
Wow.
everything that he loves. Yes, that's the story
Nice.
behind the name.
Really nice. Victoria, thank you so much. It was a pleasure hosting you here.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. Explore Vimy, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimy at www.vimy.net. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insights in our next episode.